Hey everybody, I'm Joey Wargachuk, and today I am here with Robert Priddle from Canada, who is going to be discussing crystal healing and ancient history. And Robert, how are you today?
I am great in light of everything. Where it's springtime, so it's wonderful to be here in Canada.
Oh, that's amazing. Can you tell us about your background, what it is you do, and why you love crystals?
Well, first thing, I'm a librarian and a religious studies scholar, and I finished both of my graduate degrees in 2013. My area of expertise is the canons of Western magic, and I've recently come to crystal healing and the applications of crystals in the modern period, and so now I've taken on a sort of a research project to discover sort of the historical roots of crystal healing and maybe start a little project from there.
You have a course on Udemy. What's the name of that course?
It's the Foundations in the Study of Magic, and it will be a 12-part course, but right now I have 6 of them up there, and part 3 is free. So, and we'll mention my link at the end of this interview.
That is awesome. So let's jump right into this. What are your 3 favorite crystals and why?
So there's a lot of crystals out there, right? But I tend to be drawn to blues and greens and things like that. But the one that stands out the most for me is Lapis Lazuli, followed by Optically Clear Quartz.
And do you have those with you today?
I do. So I got here, this actually I got from Happy Soul. This is just a little piece of Lapis Lazuli. I'd like to get, more of a statement piece, but it's something that I treasure a lot. And then, so I'm also a big fan of quartzes in general, but my favorite though is Optically Clear Quartz, which is quite rare.
Beautiful. Can you put that up to the, oh, it's just perfectly clear.
Yeah. And it's very distinct from fused quartz or leaded glass. Like rock quartz is awesome. And then my final one is more on the gemstone side of crystals. It's emeralds, and I just adore emeralds and their beautiful
So you
color.
said that you focus on the study and canons of magic. What makes crystals so magical?
Wow, it's a really complex question, and it goes back thousands of years. People have, when we first discovered the different properties of stones and earths and plants, we are drawn to all the hidden technologies of nature, and crystals is one of those ones that spans every culture because we share the planet. So crystals are going to come up in every culture across the planet, and the stories that develop around them tell us who we are and how we can heal each other.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. That leads me into my big question is, please educate us on the history and ancient history of crystal healing, and we're all yours.
Okay, well, one of the first ones, like I said, that I want to talk about is Lapis Lazuli. And Lapis Lazuli has one of the oldest histories out of most crystals, besides that of quartz. And it goes back to at least 4,000, 5,000 years ago with ancient Egypt. And they were pioneers in medical techniques. And what they discovered was when they ground Lapis Lazuli and made a solution of water with it, it turned into a real good antiseptic for them. So it helped them pioneer surgeries and disinfecting.
That has to do with the pyrite in water creating hydrochloric acid, which we do not recommend that you do this at home.
No, and so that's just one of the things that one has to bear in mind when doing the study of the history of crystal medicine, is that it can be fraught with all kinds of alchemical dangers. So you consult your local crystal healer first before attempting these sorts of practices. The next crystal that I want to talk about in terms of its history is the optically clear quartz. So like I said, quartzes are found all over the planet in all sorts of different formations, citrine and amethyst, which comes from the Greek meaning without intoxication. But for optically clear quartz, since it's traditionally used as a divination method, it gets paired with crystal healing in this way. between a client and the practitioner, divination enabled the healer to determine the best course of action for healing. So while quartz is generally termed as a master crystal and it can be applied in multiple settings, its better use sometimes is to determine a surgical procedure through crystal rather than the panacea approach, I would say. But that,
Wow.
yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about how far back crystal healing goes in history and where the first signs and civilizations that were doing this?
Well, like I said, we can at least trace it back to as far as Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. But more recently, though, than that, recent by comparison, crystal healing comes out of actually ancient Greece. And the word crystal is actually a Greek word, crystallos, meaning, and it literally means frozen water. Yeah, and so some of the earliest mentions of the associated powers of stones and crystals comes from a man named Theophrastus, and his work gets preserved in Pliny's Natural History. And from there, they created a whole series of what are known as, in medieval history, as lapidaries, which are sort of like herbals, but instead of listing the properties of plants, it lists the properties of stones. And the last stone I want to talk about that comes out of a medieval tradition is the emerald. And so in these lapidaries, they would make a distinction between its talismanic use and its ingested use. So in crystal healing and in stone healing, the emerald was used to cure poisons and remove disease.
But does it actually do cure poison? I'm gonna get.
We'd have see, and this is where research comes in, because it's only just recently that medical science is looking back at medieval tradition and finding whether or not if there is efficacy or not. More recently, there was just a study done on a medieval antiseptic. So there could be something that ancient history did record a use from, but we just haven't discovered its actual chemical property yet. So this is where ancient history comes really important.
Cool. So could you tell me a little bit about Mesopotamia, about how they used crystals at that time and how we know that?
I'm sorry, Joey, could you repeat that? You seem to have frozen for me.
Just one moment, you have frozen for me as well. So how can we know about, how did we learn that Mesopotamia, they were using crystals?
Isn't it great? Oh, okay, I think we're good now. So what was that question again?
How do we know that they were using crystals?
Maybe not.
In Mesopotamia.
Okay, so in the Mesopotamian writings that have been left behind, we have thousands and thousands of clay tablets, and some of these tablets are some of the earliest mentions of the associated properties of stones. In fact, we have one Mesopotamian tablet that lists 300 stones and their uses. So wow. It was a very
modern crystal books now only usually start at 500 to 1,000. So that's a lot of crystals to have on a list.
Oh yeah, there is entire training manuals from Mesopotamia that have not yet even been translated yet on how to properly service your clients with stones, incantations, and ritual baths.
Wow, that's really interesting. What other things of crystal healing and ancient crystal history would you like to share with us, and how has that shown up in modern crystal healing?
Oh, I'm really attracted by the development of crystal grids. I think it is the natural progression of human technology meets healing practice, and that what they enable us to connect with our higher selves and get more than remind us, but try and I'm trying to think about a way of getting across why I love the new sorts of crystal healings that are here. They allow us to be mindful of ourselves by uncovering our hidden selves.
Okay, so that being said, what with crystal healing grids, have there been any crystal grids found in ancient history, and which one of them would you find was the most interesting?
That question just sparked off an idea, because where I can see that the ancient sources of crystal grids comes out of Greek philosophy and Platonic solids, and that in Greek philosophy, geometric patterns are ways in which you can make changes in the universe. And one of the earliest sorts of examples of that would be like the fluorite, which is an octahedron. So in the Greek philosophical sense, this would be related to the element of air. So that's why I think the crystal grids are so interesting, because they're the natural progression of the theory of Platonic solids, and how we can use sacred geometry and the associated powers of stones in a matrix to create information larger than a single thing.
So what I'm kind of very interested in is that all of your research shows that crystal healing isn't a newfangled thing. It's something that's been around for a very long time. It's just how we interpret it. Is that correct?
Yeah, and more importantly, that we're constantly evolving, refining, and adapting it to new and modern situations. And we're constantly discovering new things about our universe.
That is so very interesting. In your email, will you have some links and references of books that you source for us?
Oh, yes, for sure. I will put up any of the online sources that I have found, and as well as any of the links to books such as this one, which is The Curious Lore of Precious Stones, which was written in 1905. So there's a lot of material out there that hasn't quite made its way to public consumption in the internet, and that's where I thrive as a librarian, being able to connect people with the information that they're looking for.
Oh, that is just so wonderful. And I just want to let everybody know that Robert has an amazing series on the foundation and history of magic that's on Udemy. And there's a free workshop that you should check out. And the link is in the email. Thank you so much, Robert, for sharing information and your time with us today. And we look forward to checking out your workshops on Udemy. And have a great day.
You too. I'll talk to you soon, Joey. Bye.